This is the Black Nerd Talks podcast. This is your main host, Eb. I'd like to tell you a little bit about me before we start. I'm a social worker and men's rights advocate with an extensive history in competitive esports such as Guilty Gear, Gundam vs. and Street Fighter. I hope that today's episode will provide you with some nerd self-help through deep conversational interviews and open discussions where you hear the stories and perspectives of our fellow nerds. Join us as we uncover the themes and messages found in the mediums of anime, video games, and as well as comic books, and how we can apply the life lessons found in them to deal with our everyday struggles. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Discord, all under the same name and logo of Black Nerd Talks. Follow us to let us know what you think of the latest episodes. We'd love to hear your feedback. Following us will also allow you to keep up with when we drop the latest and newest episodes. We also have an Etsy shop where if you search Black Nerd Talks, you can find our Black Nerd Talks t-shirts and crew necks if you'd like to support the podcast. All right, we're back. This time is just, lately it's been three people having a conversation, but this time it's going to be Nedu and I because we both, I think it's fair to say, like, we're both being impacted by the story of Oden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this conversation is going to be about Oden and his story. It's a play on the word. Oden is meant to be boiled. Leaders are meant to be legends. And we're also going to be touching on the recent case of A$AP Rocky as well. Nedu and I were just talking about that a few days ago, the idea. And then even like our men's night that we did, what was it, Friday? All these things tied together with what we saw in the Scarborough movie called Morningside.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. One of the first things I'd like to say about Oden and his arc, his flashback, I should say, is that leaders are always ones that go against the grain. You can't do anything significant if you're trying to appeal to everybody. Just generally speaking, not everyone's going to like you. I've had push you. Ned and I, we've talked about all the experiences. I don't know. I've never talked to you about your experience, but I've had, about all my work experiences getting pushed back for like the things I say in the work I do. I don't know if you have any experience that in terms of.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it was largely working sometimes in predominantly white spaces. I think I was lucky because I had some really solid coworkers who would support me. But I think it's when I went to management with some of my concerns around like just the lack of thoughtfulness when it came to blackness or even just any type of intersectionality, where I would get like sometimes a gentle pushback, sometimes that's not a problem for us, or sometimes it's, oh, you should talk to the one Black or Indigenous person management about that. And I'm just like, that's not really the kind of response I was looking for. So yeah, I don't think it hasn't been to the same extent as you for sure, because I was never really in leadership roles at those times. But I think when you do point out those things that aren't being thought of, aren't being looked at, there's always a pushback, especially when there's this idea that's going to take a lot of time and effort, and we just don't want to do that.
Yeah, and you're actually making me think of, I've been actually looking at a lot of like African leaders and prominent leaders throughout history lately, just doing some research in terms of our ancestry. And there's a lot of leaders who've done some significant things. And for the most part, three names, I'll just throw it out there: Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso, Nelson Mandela, and even the current leader of Burkina Faso right now, Ibrahim Traoré. I don't even think the UN acknowledges him as like I think he's president, or is it prime minister in Burkina Faso? I don't know which one.
I actually don't know. I'm going to embarrass myself and say I'm not sure
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but we'll go with I think it's president.
I think it's actually prime minister. I just had to look it up because, prime minister.
Yeah, the current prime minister, they're not going to acknowledge, they haven't even acknowledged him. So even for him, with all the great things he's doing, now everyone is liking him, especially France. France doesn't like him.
Oh, of course not.
And it made me think of Oden. So you remember when Oden saved Nekomamushi, Inuarashi, and Kawamatsu from being captured towards the end of the flashback, and he was reprimanding his people, right? He wasn't even in agreement with how they were treating those anthropomorphic children, right?
Yeah.
He said, what was it? You should be ashamed of yourselves. You fear what's different out of ignorance. It's pathetic to torment such little creatures, right? That just shows his character. He's always been the type of person to go against the grain. Even, in fact, in terms of Wano and One Piece, Wano is a representation to Japan, and Wano is an isolationist country / island. And what was the thing that Oden tried to do many times? Leave.
Yeah, he tried to leave. Yeah.
The thing they tell you not to do. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, Jess, actually, I have to correct myself before someone corrects you. So it seems that Thomas Sankara was the former prime minister of Burkina Faso,
Yeah.
but it's listing Ibrahim Traoré as the president of the transition of Burkina Faso. So you were
Ah,
correct. But yes, I just
okay.
want to make sure that we put on record. Anyway, please.
All right. I was right. But yeah, no, that's exactly it. And you can see even with those leaders, there's an aspect of representing culture, but at the same time challenging it.
Mhm.
Even with both like Sankara and Traoré, you saw like whenever they're going to international meetings, they're wearing either African attire, they're wearing their military garb, right? They're always staying true to who they are, even in terms of going back to Oden, right?
Mhm.
During the flashbacks when he's on, I forgot what the Gold Roger ship is called.
Oh, shoot.
I saw it. I was looking at it. I was reading up on it yesterday. And I forgot the name again. It's gonna bother me. I don't know if you're on it. I appreciate it. Well, in the meantime, like
Oro Jackson.
Oro Jackson. There we go. Such a weird. Oh, Oro. Go. Okay, clever.
Mm.
Okay, I saw what Oda did there. Oro means, if I remember correctly, it means gold. Anyways, when they're on the Oro Jackson, what Oden is wearing traditional Wano / Japanese attire. Even like when everyone's drinking out of sake bottles, everyone's drinking out of like bottles and glasses. He's drinking out of a sake glass, right?
Yeah.
He's always representing his culture and his people. He's never deviating from it, but at the same time, he's challenging it. And I think in terms of leadership, you have to hold that line of respecting culture, but also, how would I word it? Challenging backwards way of doing things. I would say, especially within, and we're gonna have an episode on it through Black Panther, but it's just the idea of like within, I'd say especially African culture, and I would say somewhat Caribbean culture, is that we have this, how would I word this reverence for culture, where you're not, I'll put all my money on this right now. Nedu, you don't watch Nollywood movies.
Not nearly enough.
Do you like them though?
I do actually, yeah.
Okay, now I'm shocked. I lost all my money. Go on.
No, I've only seen a couple, but that was a long time ago. But now there's a whole bunch on Netflix. I've got a bunch that I've listed to watch. It just haven't come yet. Yeah.
Okay, maybe the modern ones. I haven't given the modern ones a try. I'm talking about like when our parents would get us to watch when we were kids.
Oh, okay, old school. I haven't seen those in over two.
I don't have the patience for it. And I don't. You poison the fufu in a goosey soup, and I'm watching someone eat for 10 minutes and then they choke. I'm just. Why am I watching? He's drinking water. He's talking to someone, and I'm like, bro, you were supposed to be dead like 2 minutes ago. What are we doing?
It's a real case of what's the word I'm looking for now? I can't even remember, but it's the gun under the table. Except the gun's under the table for an hour and a half. Like,
just do the thing. Like, why am I watching someone? If I was hungry for fufu and a goosey soup, I'd go get some right now. I'm trying to watch a movie. Or like the scene while they're walking down the dirt road for 5 minutes. You're just like, yes, they left. You don't have to keep playing the song.
Yeah, like it's like there's the parts where you cut out. Yeah.
And they're walking to the market. I know you just cut to when they get to the market, please. Cut to when they get to the market.
Yeah.
And they're even like talking to random people during the market. And can you just get the poison or whatever it is in the market?
I know what's gonna happen.
Get to the point. Get to the point.
Yeah, that stuff is wild. I do appreciate that a little bit, but I think I'm just like, if you watch it, it's similar to you watch old Kurosawa films where it's just there's Kurosawa films, where there's just like these long moments of people just doing random stuff, and you're just like, why though? But at the same time, sometimes, again, like I'm not saying this is always on the same level, but sometimes I just find the texture of the setting can be very entertaining for me. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
I actually
but you're not wrong.
Films. I actually, as much as I have a reverence for Kurosawa, I've actually sat down and watched his films. So you're inspiring me to do that. I want to actually watch Zato Ichi.
It's a good one.
Yeah, because like it's referenced in Guilty Gear, funny enough, and then Fujitora is like
literally, yeah.
And then they even reference. By the way, just side point, like the way they reference Kurosawa in the Wano arc, bro. I lost it. I saved it on my phone. I was just like, no, this is peak. You guys didn't have to do a black and white scene.
That was so fucking cool. That whole scene was fantastic. Yeah, that was incredible.
It's in my top 5 scenes for that arc. I was just like, you guys did not need to do that. You guys did not need to go that hard.
The animators went so hard that arc. It was incredible.
Peak. Absolute cinema. I was like, I even called my boy. I was like, they reference Kurosawa. And the thing that upset me the most is the fact that most people didn't even realize it was a Kurosawa reference.
Oh, really?
At least when I went to YouTube to watch the scene, because I would say comments in the YouTube section is a good idea for how many people understood something, and only two comments. There's good few likes for those comments, but there's only 2 comments where people mentioned Kurosawa.
Wow.
Most people just are like, "Oh, black and white," because this time, no, Kurosawa, not
specifically
Kurosawa. Don't ever disrespect him like that.
I'm surprised, but I guess there are a lot of younger fans and stuff too, so I guess that does make some level of sense.
And most people don't know. Like, I know about Kurosawa because of Guilty Gear, because one of the characters, he's blind, and his name is Zato One.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah. So way back when I started playing Guilty Gear when I was like 17, 18, I was like, who is Zato Ichi? And then I searched up Zato Ichi, and then that's how I found out about Kurosawa. But unless you've been exposed to those things, you're not really gonna figure out.
Yeah, that's a fair point. If you're known to maker, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, was that? I was like, so when I saw, I was like, absolutely. I got my hands up right now for those who are listening. My hands up right now. Just like,
amazing.
But yeah, where was I? Yeah, there's a challenge, and at the same time, there's a respect for that culture. You have to hold that line. And like I said, for us, we tend to, within African, when I look at African culture, when I look at my other side of my family being Caribbean, I always find like we have to just do it no matter what. And if you don't do it or accept it, like I was brought up on Nollywood movies, it's almost like you're anti-culture, anti-Nigerian, anti-black. If you don't want to do everything, you got reggae, you got soca, you got Afrobeat, you only watch Nollywood movies, you only eat Nigerian food, you only eat treaty food, and unless you're doing those things, you're what's the word I'm looking for? Your figurative black card is immediately revoked, immediately and permanently.
No, that's like a very true like thing that happens like within our culture, and I think it's really like, and it's damaging too, because as I said before, I really don't like when we put people in boxes, and I think that's what happens. You put people in boxes, and that could lead to some pretty brutal outcomes. Obviously, I can't get into details, but I work with a lot of young folks who family of immigrants, and a lot of young people I've worked with and to Scott talked to have come out saying things like, I really like that, like actually feeling like they hate their culture. And when we're able to work through a lot of stuff, there's a lot more understanding, especially when we talk about their values. There's these things where they find out like, oh, I actually value a lot of things my culture values. What I don't value is the way in which we keep practicing this stuff. And so that's where it is, where they're just like, yeah, I actually care about this stuff. I care about these things, but like the way in which it's being put upon me, the way that we keep doing these things, the way that we're completely unquestioning, really feels wrong. And I think Oden's a perfect example of that, right? I like how you pointed out that he never once changes out of his garb. He's always drinking out of sake cups. The thing that's so interesting, and I'm sure we'll go over this, is that he was such a unruly child growing up, and he doesn't value tradition. The thing is that the way Oden is, it's like he's always watching and paying attention to things. He's always watching and paying attention to things. And so he still does those things. Those actions, those traditions still have deep meaning to him, even if he's not talking about them openly, but he still does them. He's just also willing to act in a way that, hey, this is actually damaging. And that example you had of him scolding those people who were stringing up Kawamatsu, Nekomamushi, and Inurashi is a perfect example. He's just, what are you ignorant rubes doing? These are kids. Leave them alone.
No, and that's exactly it, right? And we have to, it's almost like I said, like this blind reverence for it. And even you're getting me even to think of some of the young people that we were with Friday, all the ones I brought. I won't name them. I won't put their names specifically out there, but a lot of them have those same sentiments of, I love my culture, but I don't like these things about my culture. And because they're not doing this absolute blinded reverence for the culture, you're 100% against the culture, right? And it's like, they go to Caravana, they go to these things, but like they don't want to be a gallus. That's what you're expected. For those that don't know what gallus means, like you're a ladies' man, playboy. It's a more of a Jamaican slang, but it's a Caribbean but Jamaican slang. And unless you are this, you might as well say you're not Caribbean, or you might as well say you're not African. It's just, you don't have to be all these things to be for one's culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would also like to add, how would I word this? For me, I really related to, when I started really, first of all, I thought Oden was huge and his outfit was ridiculous, but that's Oda's design. But I started relating to Oden from the 9 Red Scabbards. I say that because a lot of the young guys that came Friday, they looked to me as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me because when I met all of them, they were all doing foolishness. They
Mm-hmm.
were like
Mm-hmm.
doing foolishness, and they were interesting to say the least. They were characters. They still
Yeah.
are. As you saw Friday, they're still
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
And the thing I loved about Oden's story that really resonated with me the most was, like I said, his leadership, specifically how he raised the bar for everybody around him. So just to touch on everybody that I'll just speak on, because they were all like just so like whenever people were talking about them, they were all referred to as vagrants, local thugs, and losers. Quote unquote losers. I don't really like the term losers because it tends to be associated with men who aren't doing enough, quote unquote. But
Mm-hmm.
they were labeled as losers. When we look at Kinemon, Kinemon was the guy during Wano. He was him.
Yeah.
He was like, I would say second command next. Yeah, he was one of the commanders next to Luffy, Law, and Kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you going back on the Flash, this man had like blonde hair.
He was just running
like,
local jobs. He was a bit of a he was like a vagrant. He was just running around stealing stuff. He had a girl back home that just barely putting up with him. Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Trying to steal from his girl and shit. Yeah, like
oh boy,
he was a loser. In fact, yeah, he was a loser. He wasn't doing much. In fact, and he made a really powerful point, and I think that speaks to a lot of the male experience. When I forgot her name. But
his partner?
Yeah, I think it's Suru.
Suru, yeah.
Suru. Shout out to me. And thank you. When Suru was just like, don't you realize if you keep doing these dangerous things, you're going to die? And Kinemon made a really good point. What was it? No one will mourn my death. And there's a lot of young men and boys who think like that, who just, and some of them, there can be some truth to it where you're not valued unless you're doing something for others. And if you're gone now, no one is really going to think about it. We all know I got to use very social media friendly terms. The self-deletion rate among young boys, men, and old men is very high for that reason, right? Because of that mentality of no one will mourn my death. I don't know if you have any if you have any experience on the whole self-deletion thing within men and how high it is as a therapist.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's the case that oftentimes men are higher success rate of self-deletion because of A, that mentality, B, the large epidemic of male loneliness, and C, like you're saying, the method used is often much more violent, much more permanent. So it's a lot higher, and it's a huge issue.
Yeah, and so you're seeing Kinemon have that mentality. Well, now if you look at Wano, this guy he's the second in command after Momonosuke, right?
Yeah.
And then you had Denjiro, who was basically, they didn't know what to call him, but he's basically a con artist.
Yeah.
He was just a straight up con artist. He was like swindling people of their money. Yeah. And then there's a really good quote that even he used. Actually, I'll get back to it. Okay. I'll get back to it.
All right.
Yeah, Denjiro was a con artist. Izo and Kikunojo, there we go. They got some, not really one for some real Japanese names.
Yeah.
Kikunojo, they were traveling dancing orphans. Kanjuro, he still is though, but Kanjuro was a creepy night stalker. He just became a creepy traitor.
Yeah.
Raizo was excommunicated from the shinobi and became a bandit. Yeah. Ashura Doji was just the lawless ruler of Kuri.
Yeah.
Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, and Kawamatsu were orphans.
Yeah.
Right. So none of them had anything going on in society and in the community. But them meeting Oden changed who they were. In fact, even like when Oden found Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, and Kawamatsu, they were eating Oden, and Nekomamushi threw the pot over because he was burning his tongue. By the way, are cats actually have a hard time eating hot food? I was actually curious about that, but I never looked it up.
I actually have no idea. Knowing
Odin, I wouldn't be surprised if it's true because Odin will put in some like obscure stuff where I'm like, why would you know that? And then I'm pretty sure he has like a pet cat. That's why he knows this.
He must.
And he probably tried to give the cat Odin, and that's how he thought of the arc of Odin.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I got it. Flashback, Wano, I got this.
Yeah, I could see the vision.
But yeah, no, because of that kind of state, even when they threw the pot over, Kawamatsu started eating it off the floor because I've never had someone be so kind to me. And then Nekomamushi, the same thing, because they reciprocated his kindness because of the kindness that he gave them. And the thing that made, and this is an interesting thing about, I've been really reflecting on the idea of power, especially since reading the last issue of Marvel's The Ultimates. And I think that the people that we need most in power are the people who do not want to be in power. Oftentimes, the thing I've seen with those with very prominent leaders throughout society, this is not even just within the diaspora, but just globally, is a person who did not want to take the position. The term is, there's three ways of saying it, which is noblesse oblige. Those, and an expanded way of that phrase is from the Bible, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah.
And then the more modern retelling of that is, with great power comes
great responsibility. Yeah. Old Uncle Ben.
Good old Uncle Ben. And we have to look at that, because there are some people who just want power for the sake of it. And there's people who do not want it. And I think we need to reflect on, because oftentimes we feel that if someone is gay, they won't misuse power. If they're trans, if they're black, if they're white, if they are poor, if they are rich, they won't misuse power. But it's more than just that. It's a human thing. And we need to take a more nuanced look at power in relation to human beings, right? I don't know if you've seen, I've seen on my feed, there's been like a rise in, I have to use once again social media terms, female diddlers in schools. And and I was having a conversation with one of my friends whom you know, and she was saying how oftentimes she would see like things of like horrible things men did. And then she's also seen like the rise of diddler stuff within female teachers. And we were just talking about, it's not so much that men are predisposed to acts of violence and crimes. It's just that they're bigger. If you're bigger than somebody, it's a lot easier for you to use that power over them. If you have a higher position than someone, it's a lot easier for you to use that power over them. We have to really, like I said, have a more nuanced way of looking at power in relation to people and screening the right people for those positions of power. I don't know if you wanted to speak on that, but
yeah, absolutely. I'd say as far as that rise, it's one of those things that it was always there, except for, first of all, like you said, because it's more often found in men, because men are often bigger and are in more often positions of authority. And often rewarded for certain types of behavior that put them in those types of positions. So it'll happen more commonly, right? Because of the world we live in, because of society, all that stuff. Having said that, women and femmes in those types of positions have always been there. It's happened that it's often less reported on because of such things. It's also the case too, if we look at everywhere from, again, if we're looking at a Canadian example, if you look at those residential schools here in Canada where Indigenous folks were often sexually exploited by the nuns working at these places too. So it's about that access to power and that access to unchecked power that gives people, that allows incredibly unsafe people that don't even need to pass certain qualifications to be able to be in these spaces. So yeah, it's pretty horrible, and it's important that we're talking about these things, because again, in the case of, we talk about like more often like young boys being in very vulnerable positions, but it's not talked about, or it's not acknowledged, or more talks about it and it's, what do you go, wuss? It's really just, we got to get our minds out to understand that this can happen on all levels to a lot of people. And we need to make sure people feel safe talking about it.
No, that's exactly. And like I said, we have to have a more nuanced understanding of it, really looking at who those people are who want to be in those positions of power. And also, as you said too, there was a good point, which is like having those checks and balances, because we'll get to him, but we can see with Orochi, like he just fully explained. And I guess you could say Kaido, but like wasn't trying to pretend to be a good person. He was like, I'm here to exploit you guys. I'm here to exploit you, the labor, which is you people, and I'm here to exploit your land. And I'm going to use that to take over more land and exploit those people and their land. And I'm going to just keep proliferating colonialism. That's what I'm here for. I'm not trying to, I don't want to see you guys prosper.
He said what he was. He said his plans were on the tin. He's like, that's it. That's me.
Yeah. I don't want to, seeing you guys prosper is going to have a negative impact on me, actually. So I'm going to go out of my way to keep you guys from living your best lives. That's what I'm here to do.
Absolutely.
And Orochi here is here to support me in this endeavor, because he also doesn't want to see you guys prosper. That we both have that in common.
Yeah. But we're going to get to it, so I guess we don't need to talk about Orochi specifically yet.
Yeah, we'll get to Orochi. Yeah. Like the thing I loved about that, going back to Oden, it really set the bar for everybody. Like Kinemon, like I said, was one of the top commanders during the Onigashima.
Onigashima.
Thank you. it's such a they just put really long words and names. And I'm usually good with names and words, but this I was like, oh man.
Yeah, you want all out here.
Onigushima. Did I get it?
Yes.
Yes. The Onigushima arc, like Kinemon was like one of the leaders for it. And I love that because like with a lot of like yesterday I was talking with one of my young guys. Sorry, not yesterday, Friday. And he was saying how the main reason he wants to get into community work is because of the impact I've had on him. Because like what was his words? He said, I wouldn't be the man I am today if I didn't meet you. And I want to do that for someone else.
That's awesome.
And a lot of them have said that. And there's a standard there's a standard I set for myself, which in so doing sets the standard for the people around me. And I think that's an important thing as a leader. When I was rewatching the Oden's flashback, one of the things I came to the realization of, Oden didn't make the 9 red scabbards. The 9 red scabbards were made for him. So what I mean by that was he gave them a level of responsibility. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. It's right here. When Oden became the daimyo, which we'll also talk about that aspect of how he came to be.
Yeah.
He looked at his followers, if you will, and he said, now that I'm daimyo, now a daimyo requires retainers. I don't want to be assigned some stuffy, stuck-up nobles. I would rather have you all be my samurai. And so it was a very emotional thing for them because they've never, how would I word this? No one saw the potential in them. And that's what leadership is, right? And I know you've taken a bigger managerial role in terms of where you've worked, the idea of just seeing the potential in others, right? Because too often we tend to, for understandable reasons, we tend to judge people and things on face value. But I would say a great leader is someone who can see the potential in others that they can't even see in themselves, and that they can rise it. Okay, I don't know if you have any kind of experience or thoughts on that.
Yeah, just I think both in my position and also just working with folks or whatever. I don't. What am I trying? What can I say? I guess I've just worked with a number of young folks who have just been just fine doing their thing, but then I've had enough opportunities to work with them, and because of the general population of the folks I'm working with, sometimes I have to get a little creative, right? Because not everyone's going to want to sit down in a room and talk, which is fine. And it's tough for me because that's what I've been doing for most of my working career. I have to, all right, how do I work outside the box? And yeah, it's a bit of cliche, but I had one of the kids kick my ass at basketball. I'm horrible at sports. I have 2 left feet. It's all embarrassing. My poor father is so embarrassed of me. But
don't worry, I got 2 right feet. It's a little bit better, but it's not great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's just at some point when this person was kicking my ass, I was like, can you show me how to do this? And he started teaching me, and he was really good at it. And I was just like, you are really good at this. Have you ever thought about teaching people how to do this? Have you ever thought about teaching kids? And because I noticed he also had a gaggle of younger kids often calling out to him whenever we'd walk from like school to somewhere else to sit down and eat. And he's just, I don't care about that. But eventually we encouraged him to join this Leaders in Training program, and he excelled at it, and he flipping loves it. So it's just being able to see a couple things and just put at least a bit of a seed into someone's head, and just like opening the door, right? At some point they do have to walk through it. And it's just like with these scabbards, right? Oden opened the door, but they're the ones that had to keep walking through it. And that was the important thing. And he gave them an opportunity that no one else would have. With Oden, it's not just loyalty, it's gratitude. It's those 2 things together with him. And it's that love for him that they're like, yeah, we absolutely want to do this. They didn't clean up their image just because people said, you kids got to pull up your pants and get your lives straight. No, there wasn't that. It was like, we want to do this to help him because he showed us we can be more than we thought we could be. So I thought that was all very cool.
Yeah, you actually made me think of that quote that Ashura Doji said to him after they cleaned up Kuri, the land of Kuri. And he said, Ashura said to him, I have never known peace. Thank you, Oden.
That's awesome.
Oden, being a dick, kicked him in the face after.
Yeah. Right. Actually, one of the things I really loved about Oden, I think this face shows up pretty regularly now in One Piece, but I think Oden is the origin of the he didn't like that face, right? Where it's just like, they're like, we love you, we're going to follow you forever. He's just like, kill.
Yeah, oh yeah, the face of annoyance. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like, he looks annoyed.
Yeah, I think Luffy and Zoro did that face. So, yeah.
Yep. When, what's it called? What's his name? Luffy was like, how about this? We'll cut you a deal. We won't chase you guys if you set us free right now for us to beat the Seraphim. And then Luffy and Jones just like, these guys look so annoyed.
They look so annoyed face. That was I love that. That's one of my favorite gag faces now. That's
Oden started and now it's been like a thing in One Piece. I'm like,
yeah.
Shouts to Oda for reading for the humor wheel in One Piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but no, you actually made a good point because I actually wanted to read what Yasui was saying to him because you remember when, as Oden was daimyo initially, they were running out of money.
Yeah,
and so the 9 red scabbers before they became the 9 red scabbers, like, you know what? We'll rob Oden's uncle.
Yeah. Smart plan, guys. Good job.
We'll rob him and help Oden with his money. And it's just like, yes, it's definitely stupid, but on the other hand, you could see how like you're just doing the best with the resources that they have. And
that's what they know too. They're like, how do we get money? I know, we'll rob someone who has a lot of money. It's not he needs all of it. Exactly. It's just like the thought process.
He won't take it personally. It's his uncle.
Yeah.
We're not robbing a stranger.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're also not going to tell Oden either, because Oden will tell us not to.
Yeah.
Especially his uncle.
Yeah. Oh man.
Good stuff. And so Yasui ended up speaking to him, and I'm going to just read the whole thing. After he captures all of the 9 red scabbards as they're being like lowlives and thugs. And he says, do you love Oden? Then take this money that they stole. Take this money and make yourselves presentable. Learn some manners. Buy some books and study. Mm-hmm. And he goes on to say, having a bunch of low-life retainers like you would only disgrace Oden. He is the man who will one day become the shogun of Wano, the country. Those who serve him ought to be the best samurai Wano has to offer. Of course, protecting your lord is a must, Oden. The entire country of Wano will have you as its guardians. And you saw from that standpoint, they decided to reform themselves, if you will. I don't know if reform. I would say refine. Reform,
yeah.
It's like a criminal undertone to it. They refined themselves, right? They started studying. They're even speaking more formal Japanese than Oden, which he found.
That's so funny. What the hell are you guys talking about? He's just like,
why are you guys talking like this?
Yeah. Right? Like, I like what you said about refined too, because they never changed who they were. Like they were still very much themselves. Like their personalities were still the same. There were still a bunch of goofballs, but they also just were more refined. They were still goofballs, but they also knew how to do things. They had better manners. They like made themselves more presentable, but they were very much still the same people that Oden had met and supported. So I thought that was cool.
I really love how you said that, because when Oden went back to meet with his dad Sukiyaki after being excommunicated from him and the Kozuki family / clan, Sukiyaki said, I see you refine yourself I've seen you've become a refined man now. And Oden said, it was a very offhanded remark, and it was only from that YouTube video I shared with you and Aziz of the Oden analysis, where it's like Oden said, nothing about me changes, just people's perceptions of me change. And I'd extrapolate that because oftentimes we tend to see, we have how would I word this? We have a very negative very negative, narrow-minded perspective of masculine energy. So what I mean by that is, we all know statistically, and you just have to go outside to see it, like not to say like you living in crime, but like majority of crime is committed by men. Mm-hmm. Also, majority of crime is committed upon men as well. And that same energy to commit crime is the same energy that can be used to build like a GO train station. It's energy, and the ability to create and destroy is just two sides of the same coin. It's all about how that energy is being channeled. And I would say we're in the same field. I know you've worked with young people who are so both destructive and self-destructive to their community. And the moment they're given the appropriate outlets, that same energy that was previously so destructive is now doing so much good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can think of so many of the young men I've worked with who, they were, you could say, or people would label them as problematic, but once they were given the resources and the support, that same energy is now, they're working, they have their own space, they're doing this and that, they're giving back to the community, and it's all from that support. And so even with Oden, he was always trying to like help Wano. Yeah. He just cause problems, like causing like a mass flood that wiped out the village and stuff and whatnot, right? But once he was given the appropriate space to do what he does best, which is help people, he was able to reform the people of Kuri, which was like a lawless criminal town that Sukiyaki couldn't even do anything about, nor the other daimyos. And on top of that, he didn't just reform them, he was able to refine them. And it was it was an exemplary standpoint of that was, like I said, the 9 red scabbards, right? Like, not everyone wants to live in Kuri. Kuri was like, I think it was probably like the second best place to live besides the main city of Wano, right?
Yeah.
I think it was yeah, and that's it. I don't know if you want to speak on that sort of that dynamic of.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of why I can say that you haven't really thoroughly just covered there, but I think that's absolutely true. I think it's just like, where do you put that energy? So I think what happens if you're looking at a lot of folks, like if we look at it from our own community standpoint, right? A lot of these young folks are putting their energy into a lot of different things, but in the bottom line, sometimes it's survival, and I don't even mean that necessarily on just in a bunch of different ways. If they're younger, they're in middle school or high school, sometimes they're in like situations where they feel like they're just like not being like actually properly seen for who they are. And so survival mode puts you in this mode that I have to act a certain way, or I'm expected to act a certain way. Sometimes survival mode is a lot of these young folks are actually working jobs to support their own families at home too, because of whatever circumstances they're in. Sometimes survival mode is being stuck in a situation that that's all you know. So it's not that you don't know that things could be easier, but all you've seen and all the examples you've seen are just that one area. And all these things make me think of the way Curry was before things changed there. And so you're looking at a small community with a lot of struggles, a lot of issues. Everyone's stuck there. Everyone's trying to survive. People have to do things that they probably wouldn't normally do in order to survive. And I think you actually had a quote in here, so I'm going to steal your work here a little bit. So you're noticing something, but Ashura Doji, what he said is something sentiments I've heard from people that I've worked with, whereas it's, I've never known peace. Thank you, Oden. I've never known peace because they've been in survival mode. In order for Ashura Doji to be able to be as comfortable as possible, he had to basically become a crime lord, right? That was the least violent option for him, if you think about it, which is really sad and really messed up. But then a lot of young folks are often in that survival mode when they're stuck in locations or situations where chaos is the base level. So if you're constantly in that, how can you even have a chance to explore what peace can look like? But then you're
always in danger.
Exactly. You're hyper vigilant. You're always having to look over your shoulder. And so when you're able to find people or find supportive communities that can support you in either getting out of that space or help you reform or refine areas of that space, like that's huge. So yeah, basically yes to the things you said.
I would actually add to what you said. When we look at people like Ashura Doji, there's 2 aspects of it. One aspect of it is we tend to see people like that, young people like that, I would even say males, in a sense of they're just pathologically criminalistic just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
You just want to commit crimes because that's your genetic makeup. But it's a lot more nuanced and complicated than that, more often than not. There are some people who they're just like Joker, or Doflamingo. I'm just here. I just want to see the world burn. I don't want to help people.
Yeah.
I just want to cause problems. I don't believe in peace.
Yeah.
Milton Tayshawn from Boondocks. I like to do bad things and smoke cigarettes with my friends.
It's a deep cut. I wasn't expecting that like that.
And hey, man, he's a template. Whenever I see a character that's the Dolphin, I was like, oh, this is a little Milton Tayshawn character. I like to do bad things and smoke with cigarettes.
Yeah, no, that's actually
spot on. I do good bad things with my friends. Damn, you just about this. Yeah, some people are like that.
Some people are like that. There are folks like that.
And I think I would say majority of people are more like Ashura Doji, who want peace and they don't know how to go about it because they've never been shown an alternative path. And once you're given that, it's not so much about, because I was even watching I don't remember the guy's YouTube channel, but he was showing what's going on in New York right now, where there's no essentially penal system for, I guess you could say, minors or juveniles who are committing crimes.
Yeah.
And now it's become like a hellhole in terms of the New York subway station. I do agree there needs to be like a penal system, like Oden knocked the shit out of Ashura, right? And then but that was the first step. But also going back again on repurposing and retooling that energy towards something good for them, rather than either just penalizing them or not penalizing them at all. That neither of which is really a solution. Everyone needs consequences to their actions, but on the other hand, there needs to be, once again, a repurposing of that energy, so they can see, oh, this is my space. Even when I was running the youth space in Dorset Park area, I had the youth organize the rooms.
Yeah.
I stopped doing it. I was just like, here's a PlayStation, here's a PS3, here's a PS4, plug it in. I would be near in case someone, because there's always new kids. You don't know if that new kid's going to steal, like, I don't know, like NBA 2K or something like that. But like, I would always be around. They would just get what they needed.
Yeah.
And not do it. And like, that space became a lot more manageable because I made sure it was their space. And also, on the other hand, is it's like, why am I overworking myself? That's the thing that I've always seen with community workers, is that we love to overwork ourselves. We're going to carry the couches and set the room up. And it's like, bruv, he's 16. He has nothing to do. Let him the couch.
Let him do it. Yeah. Last year we had as like a year-end thing for the middle school I sometimes help out at. We had a rooftop event where we had a bunch of games and stuff and competitions here and there. And it was a rooftop on the community center, but it just blows my mind because the community center rooftop, and again, if I had more time and more ability to do more things, like I'd have work more towards this. But it's a green space, but it just is barely used. And it was like, I went up there and it was just like, it was so full of overgrowth and just absolutely like hideous. And I'm just like, that's really disappointing because it's a beautiful space. And I'm just like, and so myself, my other colleague were like, what do we do? What should clean up? And we're like, wait, let's get the kids to do it. So literally like a couple days before the event, we went to the middle school. And it was even after school too. So these kids could have just gone home, but we rounded them up. They're like, all right. They're like, we got them up there. Oh, what's this? They're like, you're cleaning it up. They're like, wait, what? So we just, and they went to the event the next day, and a lot of them showed up, like a lot more than we expected, but it's because they had that involvement. They felt involved and they were responsible. Like it supports them in just like feeling involved rather than just a bunch of old people telling them what to do. Hey, you're involved. Also, this is part of you setting this stuff up. Like, you're not only involved, but you're also responsible here too.
It makes me think of, and I always preface this, I don't like them. I don't really agree with anything. I agree with some of their quotes. I don't like anything that they say or do. One of Fresh from Fresh and Fit ended up using.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I always have to prefix. I do not like them, but they have some memorable quotes. Not everything. It's very rare that no one brings nothing of value to this world.
I hear what you're saying.
It was, people value things they have to work hard for, and they tend to forget that. Right? When we want something so bad as and going back what you said, it ties to Curry. Curry never went back into a lawless town, even when Orochi was ruling it. All those 20 years, Curry was still a good city to live in. It was there was oppression, right? But it never went back to being lawless again.
Yeah.
Even when Ashra went back to being like a bandit, he never defiled Curry because they had to work hard to build Curry from being a lawless town and city to what it is now. And going back on that youth space that you were talking about, and even my own youth space that I was managing, it never went back to, while I was there at least, it never went back to being bad because they had to maintain it. It was their space. It wasn't me maintaining it by myself and going back what you said, telling everybody what to do. It's like, no, if you break the TV, this is your TV. You guys are the ones in charge of it. And that it goes down to that, right? As opposed to just trying to convince people that they should do a certain thing or act a certain way. No, people are people, and people, if they have to take care of something, they're gonna treat it with a lot more respect, as opposed to, it's just, I guess you could say, given to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where it is too, because there's always that back and forth between, you're just going to hand someone something versus I'm going to have to work for it. And I think the context of that is very important. If you look at it, even the way Oden does it, he just gave these folks food. And again, joke, I love it. He's just like, he gives them food and then they just keep always, leave me alone. Get away from me. But he will give people that kindness because these folks are starving. So yes, I'm going to give them food. And then in other situations, no, you can fix this. So fucking fix it, dude. It's just because I think a lot of times people have this hard line towards one or the other, but context really does matter. So there are times where I am just going to give someone something because I'm like, yeah, this just makes sense and this is okay to do. Other times I'm like, hey, that thing you're asking for, why don't we figure out how you can figure out how to get that? Like it both have meaning. Both have meaning and both can be helpful.
You got me thinking. Ashura and Odin's clash. I don't know if you remember their conversation. Because Ashura and Odin's fight was basically like, Odin was like, yo, this place is a shithole. Right? Which it was.
Yeah, it was.
And then Ashura was like, of course, coming from a silver spoon Nepo baby, of course you'd say that. And Odin's, that's all you got to say? That's it? It's still a shithole. So even Odin can acknowledge that, yeah, he was born with a silver spoon. He's a Nepo baby. He's a son of the shogun. He's not even a son of a daimyo. He's a son of a shogun. He's had the most easy upbringing, but he's still, no, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Your place sucks.
Yeah.
It's trash.
Yeah. You're right. I am. And it still fucking sucks, dude. What are you saying? Yeah.
And that triggered Ashura. He was like, how dare you? Just no, but Odin had a point. But Odin didn't just stop there. Because too often we have people who want to pose as leaders and they just want to point the finger. I would say this is especially thing within, it's Caribbean, but it's definitely African. We know there's the whole finger pointing. The saying is, you're pointing one finger at me, but three are pointing back at you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's the idea. And even though I was having a conversation with my friend again, and she was saying how like it's difficult to talk with people who just hate on things. I was telling her I was on Twitter the other day, and someone said, I don't know how much comics. Did you read Secret Invasion?
Oh, that was
Marvel?
Yeah.
Girls? Did you?
Yes, I actually did read a bunch of different parts of Secret Invasion back in the day. Yes.
Okay, yeah. It's fire, right? I think it got awards. I don't remember.
It was really good. It was really good. And the Fallout was good too. God damn. Anyway, that's long.
Okay, so I was on Twitter and someone said Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was the only good was actually made Secret Invasion good. And I was just like, what?
Did they only watch the show? Like what? That's a
no. Like they're saying only Earth's Mightiest Heroes made Secret Invasion good. Like Secret Invasion by itself, the comic book itself, the crossover sucks.
That's wild. Like Earth's Mightiest Heroes did a good, very brief, very like it was. Earth's Mightiest Heroes was great, so I have no complaints. But made the comic good is wild. That's a wild statement.
So I asked him. I was like, so I joked and was just like, Secret Invasion good?
Yeah.
And then he responded with the MCU. Everything in the MCU sucks. Secret Invasion sucks. And he said Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is the only thing that's good or something like that. And I just completely disengaged from him.
Yeah.
If you're going to every from Iron Man 1 2008 to 2025, all of it is shit. Secret Invasion, which is critically acclaimed. I'm like, okay, I already know your headspace. There's a term that Nas used. I don't know if you're a music head or not. Nas used the term trapped in the 90s niggas.
I've heard that
you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what that means. I know, yeah.
Yeah, the last good song came out in 1999. Everything else, I can't engage with someone. Like if everything to you sucks, everything is shit, nothing is okay.
Yeah.
At least, sorry, you're about to say?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just saying this is not the same thing, but it was just funny because just on Twitter, I saw that there were people. Someone was just like, Sanji isn't kind, only cares about women, and someone was like putting all the very many examples, both subtle and very bold, of him being kind to like men. And then they just listed how all those were wrong and untrue. I'm like, why are you guys still talking to this guy? Like, clearly this person's really stupid. There's nothing you can do. That person's determined to just stand on ignorance. So, okay.
I wish people did that more. Because I remember even like, just on a side point, I was like, I was running a program called Midnight Basketball. And like it was different youth teams from different underserviced communities. So I
know about that program.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we're on the bus, and this lady, I can't remember how the conversation started, but this lady was just saying how she's not African, she's Jamaican. And she was like going off about it. It wasn't the youth, it was a lady. She was one of the ones in charge of the youth of her team.
Interesting.
And I'm not the type to get involved with public debates unless I'm asked. Like in our group chat, like I don't really jump in unless someone wants me to jump in. I tend to just watch. And she was just going off, and then my youth are looking at me because he's so smart, take whatever. And then they dragged me into the conversation. I was like, I'm not, if you're already like wilding and yelling and hollering, I'm not gonna get involved in the conversation with you. So they wanted me to get involved. They dragged me into it. I remember who dragged me into it now too.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'd even go from like an African standpoint. I said like human beings are originated from the continent of Africa. Yeah. She just went off, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I just stopped. And then, unfortunately, like a couple weeks later, she ended up like going off on one of the 13-year-old kids, like wanting to fight him. Yeah. And so it was a good learning lesson for my young guys, where I really explained to them, like, you guys are probably wondering why I wasn't engaging with her and why I stopped responding after she started screaming at me too.
Mm-hmm.
Certain people they're not entering a conversation to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
They're here to win.
Yeah.
whatever brownie points they win, right? Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
get higher tier in heaven. I don't know. Whatever it is, you
Yeah.
get a higher tier. God, I saw what you did there.
Yeah. Good job. You get that chair higher up in the bleachers. Congratulations.
Yeah, I see you.
Yeah.
A1 Christian. But yeah, some people aren't trying to have that conversation. They've entered the conversation with their mind made up, and there's nothing you can really say to them. But often as you want to prove that person wrong, same reason that you've seen like young women go on Fresh and Fit, they're trying to prove they're not trying to hear what you have to say, and they don't care. Yeah. And I think maybe that's a hurt to the ego.
It certainly can be, and I get where that comes from, especially when someone's saying something that's so off base. You're just like, but there's so many. It's just like I can feel that in my brain sometimes. I'm like, everything you're saying is so off base, and I'm not even sitting here being like, oh, I know everything and I'm completely right about my opinions. I'm like, no, the things that you're saying are just objectively untrue because of such proven things as this and this. But I remember learning this so long ago when I was younger, because it was actually like a friend's younger brother who was just like a very, very
staunch
and mean, just a mean person, just a really mean. I don't know how else to describe this person. He was just mean, right? And I remember at one point he was saying some messed up stuff about just basically poor people, and I was just like, okay. He was like, "What? I really want to know, Nedu. You know about these people. I want to know."
When they drag you into the convo. Sorry,
exactly. No, you're exactly right. He's just trying to drag me in because he knows that, because I used to get into these arguments with him because he's saying such deplorable things and spreading it around, and it just makes me so ill. I just gave him the most dismissive look I could muster, and I was just like, "Ah, you're full of shit." I'm like, "You just want, no matter what I say, you're just going to believe what you're saying. You're not actually hearing for a conversation. You're just here to get people mad and just to be really mean, and I don't have any time for that." And he never approached me with that stuff again. Doesn't mean he didn't stop saying, but I'm like, he knew not to talk to me about it, because I'm like, I'm done with you because you're just saying things that are hurtful. And so, like you said, sometimes you have to be like, okay, that's where you are. You're not actually here to have a conversation. Cool. I'm stepping away.
Yep. I've dealt with that in work too, just like where someone has like their mind made up about me. And I'll touch on it in a second, but the idea of what it means to lead is that not everyone's going to like what you have to say. And they've already made their mind up. They already made their mind up about you, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a great thing about Oden, is the fact that he was able to point out what was wrong with Curry, but then stepped up.
Yes.
And reformed Curry to
Yeah.
where it became a sought after city where everyone wanted to live in. And Oden was heavily praised, right? That's what it means to be leaders, to be able to point something out. You're not just saying Secret Invasion sucks from Marvel. You're able to break down why, and maybe you come up, maybe you become a writer. Now you've written a better version of it, right? That's what those things mean. Sorry, you're about to say?
Oh no, that's okay. Like, that's exactly it too, because and that's one of the things that always like bothers me, and like, it's just one of those things where this thing's bad or this thing sucks, and it's just like, sometimes, yeah, sure, maybe, but it's also okay when you're able to break down, but also praising the parts that are actually good or interesting. Because if someone's saying Secret Invasion sucks, maybe they're like, okay, you know what, Secret Invasion actually, for me, I don't know if I should say this out loud. For me, I think Solo Leveling is okay. I don't think it's bad.
I don't think it's great. I know we're both criminals for what we're saying. I also avoid saying anything about Dragon Ball.
No, absolutely, and it's funny because like I actually had this conversation with a couple of folks in our group, and two big fans of it in our group, and we had a conversation about, because I wasn't just like Solo Leveling sucks, blah blah, overrated, blah blah, nothing but hype, blah blah. Like, no, I'm like, here are the things that I don't like about it. Here are the things that I actually do really like about it, and so, and you can actually have a conversation. And I also heard what they liked about it. When I'm like, oh, hey, cool, I didn't actually realize that aspect of it, or I didn't realize that meant to you. Like, it's the same thing where I have conversation with I have a good friend of mine who I grew up with, who he just hates me on Genesis Evangelion. He'll just be mean about it. So I'm like, shut up. I don't ever want to talk to you about this again. But he also did the same thing with Star Wars. At one point I got really annoyed. I'm like, look, Star Wars isn't.
He did not like Star Wars, I'm guessing.
He hates Star Wars. Yeah, he absolutely hates
the current ones, or like all of it?
All of it. He's just never liked it. Which, again,
Space Samurais? I don't like Space Samurais.
People have their own camps. He's got his own reasons, and his reasons are actually legitimate. When I actually had a conversation with him, it was actually interesting, and it broke down especially why Luke Skywalker really spoke to me as a kid, because The part I actually don't hear about, Dog fails a lot.
Who feels all
Luke Skywalker
Yes.
fails. He fails a lot, but
Yeah.
he never stops trying, right? That's the thing. Even when he's losing, he's still getting back up. And so that spoke a lot to me as a young person. And so it was just like, oh, okay. Like we're able to actually have a conversation. So like you pointing out that Oden's like actually able to like, hey, Curry flipping sucks for this reason and this reason. But he also saw the potential and he stepped up, right? It's not just this politician saying, oh, this area of the city is a crap hole. We need to put more cops there. He was like, this area of the city really sucks because of all this stuff going around. We need to fix that because I see so much good here. Like it's that switch up that I think meant something, and that only a person like that is someone that Ashura Doji could have given his life for.
Exactly, which ended up technically being the case for those who somehow didn't watch Wano by now.
Yeah.
No, but that's exactly is the idea of being a man of the people. Like going back on kind of Thomas Sankara, one of the things that stood out to me about him, and even Nelson Mandela too, actually a lot of big leaders, prominent leaders in history, especially for the diaspora, is that you'll see them in the community.
Yes,
like,
that's true.
I was watching how I have to read about it more, but one of the things that Thomas Sankara did is that like community events, he'll just randomly show up in like a t-shirt and sweatpants.
Yeah.
He won't even make a public announcement. You'll just turn the corner and he's just there, right? And that's what it means, going back on what it means to be a man of people, you just show up, right? You're not trying to make a big deal of yourself. And that's how Oden was. Oden was always with the people. He didn't even like being in the tower.
Yeah.
Would it be a tower? Castle. He didn't like even being in the castle.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was only there when he was with the family, but otherwise he was just like, I'm just gonna walk the streets. I'm gonna hang out with everybody. I'm gonna see how they're doing. And what's her name? Lady Toki was maintained that same family legacy and mindset. And no, that's one of the things I loved about Oden is the fact that like he acknowledged, he's like, yeah, I'm a Nepo baby. I was born with a silver spoon, but I can acknowledge what's wrong here. And that's what really set them apart. And that's what set Curry in the right direction. And even then, like going back on what Sukiyaki, his dad, said, you became refined. He's like, no, I was always me.
Yeah.
And I can speak on this personally. It's just the idea of just like being seen as problematic. Oden had no issue. And this is what allowed Oden to be what he was to Curry. Because if he really cared about what people thought, he would have never gone to Curry. But he was always okay with being I think the word would be pariah, or being a sort of martyr for everybody, which was somewhat of his undoing, but it's also what helped him become who he was. It's okay to be against the grain. Too often we've talked, I can't remember who we talked about this with. It was, our last episodes were Katakuri and Sanji. I forgot who. Anyways, it's one of the episodes. Point being is that as a young man, it's important to be okay with not everybody liking you. And overall, just as a human being, it's okay with not everybody liking you. And one of the things I've actually talked about with the conversation I've had with my young men about, because they worry about being a mansplaining person or whatever, is the fact that the most liberating thing in life is to not be liked by everybody. At least you know who doesn't like you, and you know the people that do. But if you're trying to, then you're never in a space of ease and comfortability. If you're always just, but if I say this, will they like me? If I say this, will they have issue? People, just like how we're talking about the whole secret invasion or the Sanji stuff. And by the way, I want to say one of my favorite scene of Sanji is not any of his fights. It's actually when he saved those Marines during Punk Hazard.
Yeah, I love that. When he just kept behind them, kept kicking them in the butts, literally just to make sure they didn't fall behind. That's something that I agree. Like that's something that's never really talked about when it comes to Sanji flashbacks, or just Sanji's acts that he does. But because he just does that stuff. He doesn't do it to get noticed. People are like, oh, Tashigi. He would have done that if you guys aren't watching. He would have done that if Tashigi was around or not. He also saved Kinemon. And it's just because all of his crew members were like, dog, that's really fishy. He's just, I'll take full responsibility for him. I will. I can't just leave this person. That's just who he is.
So one of the best things about, like I said, Ifrit Jam was really cool. Some hella Sakuga versus Queen.
Oh yeah.
But no, that still stands out of my favorite, especially since I thought about, and this is probably why Sanji's not a supernova, is because I'm like, I can't see Luffy and Zoro going out of the way to save everybody, save those Marines like that.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't.
I can't see them. They would like trap them inside. No, flamingo shit. Yeah. I can't see them being like, I'm going to make sure these guys who are eventually going to try and capture us and arrest us to be saved.
Well, exactly, and there's nothing. And we are talking about Katakuri the other week, right? Luffy just stood by while Katakuri murdered his cooks right in front of him. Luffy did not give a shit, and that's not saying Luffy's bad. That's just the way
True.
Luffy is. Like, he just did not give a fuck at all. Sanji would have gotten mad if it was Sanji there. He would have been like, they did nothing to you, and also they're making food for you. Like he would have been really
That's
upset.
true.
They're just different types of characters in that sense.
Yeah, the chefs. You're talking about the chefs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Sanji's
that's
always looking out for people who no one's looking out for.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what it means to really lead, is the fact that to be comfortable with who you are, and to, if you care about Korea, if you care about Marines, whatever it is, to really stand out for those people, even if not everyone's in agreement of it, and to take, as you said, full responsibility of your actions. So that's what it means. I've been labeled, like, the amount of times I've been labeled as one of the things I've got, which is funny because like I do so much girls with, especially racialized young girls and women, is like sexist. I've gotten that one. We've talked about it. I've gotten that so many times at work for various reasons, but then at the same time, they're like, oh man, like I remember, I can give one perfect example of what it means to just go against the grain. So I remember one of the young men I was working with, we could talk a little bit more about after the episode, and he was in a situationship with one of the young women at the agency, and I was particularly close with him, and they wanted me to tell him to enter a relationship with that young woman, or to not be in a situationship with her because it's just hurting her, quote unquote. And I said no. Of course, I was seen as being difficult, but I'm like, okay, let's say I tell him to stop seeing, and also it would put my relationship with him in jeopardy because now he doesn't feel safe with me. We don't really think about that because he's a tall black man, right? Mm-hmm. It means he's not going to be safe with me because it means that whatever he does or whatever he confines me to is dependent on my other female colleagues and how they feel about him. Yeah. Right. So that's one standpoint. So it wouldn't be a healthy relationship for the two of us. And then the second point I brought up is, if it's not him who's in a situationship with her, it'll be just another young man. What are we doing to empower her to value herself so she doesn't get into situationships? And everyone's just actually, you make a good point. It would just be someone else. I'm like, why is she in a situationship? She has agency. It's not like she's this powerful, helpless agent. She has agency. She's very intelligent. She can make her own choices. Why is she making this choice? There's clearly a sense of lack of self-love and self-worth that we need to address with her. And then she would never be in these situations, pun intended, intentionally, right? And I see the same way, like even with some of my young men, they've been taken advantage of by girls and women. I'm like, yeah, there's always going to be bad people. I've said this before. There's always going, no matter what. The thing we can guarantee is taxes and what's the other one? It's like taxes, death, and I guess bad people. You're always going to exist. So how are we? Sorry,
I said true. Sorry, I just said true. Yeah.
So how are we preparing the good people to know how to navigate challenging situations with bad people?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. It's just
and not to say he's a bad person. I want to put that too. Yeah.
No, fair point. No, that's good to point out. But it's like you said. Curiosity, I think, is one of the most valuable things that people like us in our field can have, right? And so again, like curiosity, like what's happening for her that she is in a situationship. Like maybe we need to explore that first, as opposed to being like, let's tell him to stop. Okay, but also let's have a moment and explore with her what's going on. Let's have some curiosity there. If we're even talking about that, like some of the young folks I work with, like I think I've talked about this on here before, but identifying like positive and positive friendships, and again, I'm sure we'll dive into this more, but people that you can trust and people that that fit in your circle. And we literally used crew, like the idea of having crew members from One Piece is people you can identify. Okay, is this person crew? And this person like an ally, like a Vivi or a Carrot. Okay, this person's straight up crew. Like how about this person? No, they're not crew at all, right? You'd be able to utilize that idea of supporting yourself by identifying, and this person who had some pretty toxic friends for the past few years has finally moved away from them because they'll crap every time it was with them, but they're only people he knew, right? So like now he's got some people that he could actually talk to. It's interesting. I think as far as like my what's it called, involvement with folks and stuff, like I can say like I haven't really been had moments where I've been like outwardly going against grain, not out of fear of being noticed. I just think I work best oftentimes when people don't know what I'm doing.
I wish. People always asking me what I think about things, so I have to, or like I said before, the conversation with that crazy lady is that
Mhm.
like I'm
Yeah,
dragged
people.
into worse. You know what?
Yeah,
Let's get Eb into this. I'm like, or not.
yeah,
Maybe
no, yeah.
maybe
No,
I
I
don't
think
want to be here. Maybe there's a
yeah,
reason I'm quiet. You think about
yeah,
that? Maybe there's a
yeah.
reason I'm not saying anything. I don't know.
Yeah,
Putting
maybe
it out
there's a reason I'm just taking a step back. No, I think what I've often done too is because I don't know what it is. I've never been like the flashiest person or whatever, but it's just again like it's pretty common too where I've been yelled at parents for certain things, especially when they're like worried about their kids or whatever. They'll call me, somehow get my number, start yelling at me about their kid situation. Of course, I
Sorry
can't
for
say
that.
anything. It's it happens a lot, and hilariously, I'm quite good with parents, but like they're yelling at me, but then they're like, my kid finally did this and this, and I'm just like yeah, because we've been talking about it for a couple weeks. Like in my head, I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, but like I don't need that praise of oh that was all me. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was because this kid was able to open up and work with me, and we were able to take those steps. And then or they'll be like, oh, this happened, and I'm just like, yeah, that was like that was me. But I'd rather just not. I'm okay with that not being known. I just rather be in the background. And it's just because and again, I'm not just saying, oh, I'm so noble, but it's just thinking about Odin. It's just like sometimes you're able to get things done when people aren't keeping that eye on you or when they have some sort of
Keeping
perception
tabs.
of you. I'm like, I literally don't care what you think. What I care about is supporting these folks. And and so if again, I think actually it's weird now because there's a few more eyes on me than I'm used to. But and again, like I don't know. It's like some things I'm getting noticed for. Other things are. It's more like the case like, oh, why isn't this and this and this done? It's because I've been supporting other people and doing it rather than just doing it myself. I'm really supporting these folks into like figure out how to get to do it themselves, and that means that they stumble and fail and embarrass themselves a little bit. But now they know how to do it, and now they're like,
Exactly.
oh, next time I need to do this and this instead, rather than me just setting it up and sending emails and organizing everything. I'm like,
One is
oh,
learning.
exactly. Exactly. And that just ended last week with something that ended up working out after I basically had to pull teeth for someone to do something. But they finally flipping did it and they felt good about it. And I'm just like, my work here is done unless I walk away. Like, good.
And I just want to speak on that point. Like you say it as a joke, but yeah, no, literally your work here is done because now you don't have to handhold them. We always have
Hmm.
this thing of this, and this goes back into having the youth clean up the space and stuff. We don't trust them, so we have to
Yeah,
micromanage. And it's just like, okay, and then you wonder why they don't feel safe in these spaces or why they don't value these spaces. Is because
exactly.
they're not given, I know, pun intended, that the power
Hmm. Hmm.
to for over these spaces, the
Yeah,
responsibility over these spaces. Right? We
absolutely.
just want to control them and then expect them to value it somehow when that's not human nature.
Yeah, exactly. And it just makes no sense. You don't think about the long term. And I know, and again, I'm not obviously, I know, I've worked with people who are just like, oh, I have to do this and I'm so busy. And that sounds like me sometimes, absolutely. But it's just, I'm like, hey, do you need some help on that? I'm okay. I'm like, no, you do. But now you're in this level, in this cycle of, oh, this thing would fall apart without me. But oh my God, it's so much. I'm like, then how, and again, or they're like, oh, this person can't do this on their own. They're too afraid. I'm like, that's a problem. We need to support that person not being afraid to do that on their own, right? That's the way I try to work with folks. And it's harder and takes more time. And believe you me, it's exhausting, but it's just like the idea is that you can walk away and be like, my work here is done. Like now that person knows how to do that. And they probably feel better about it too. That's pretty huge.
Exactly. No, one of the things I've been thinking about in terms of legacy, going back on Curry, Wano, and even Odin's story is like
Hmm.
legacy is when people can carry on what you were doing even when you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like legacy. People, I don't think people understand what legacy is. A lot of people feel like it needs to exist with me. Now, like, no, when it can exist without you, that's
Hmm.
when you've done it.
Yeah.
Right. There's a
Absolutely.
story. This was happening, I think, around COVID times.
Hmm.
There was a Russian guy who was killed in his house. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have said. He was deleted in his house. Too
Hmm.
late now.
Yeah.
But he was involved with, I don't know what he was involved with in terms of crime, but his company was like, he was like a millionaire or billionaire or something like that. He was killed in his house. And after he died, his company like collapsed. It had to do
Mm.
with, it was tied with like labeling and stuff that like my wife
Ah.
kind of worked in that industry. And she told me, but like, yeah, like company fell once he was gone. Right.
Mm.
So
I see.
as far as I'm concerned, like no one, like in 30 years from now, no one's gonna remember you because your company's gone.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm
You
not
know,
saying that's a good or bad thing, but it just says something like even you
right.
could have built this thing, but because you never created succession,
Yeah.
it's forgotten.
That's so true. That actually reminds me. This is a little. Sorry for going a little too far off here, but I don't know if you've ever seen or watched the show The Bear. Um,
I've seen the name and I thought the name was stupid, but go on.
Long story short, the show is about this guy who's trying to create a restaurant. That's a very brief kind of summary of the show. I have a lot of good and bad things I feel about the show, but
Right.
I always think it's interesting, and
Okay.
that says a lot for me, right?
Right.
So there's one episode in season 2, and I'm not going to get huge spoilers about it, but it's basically finally the launch of their big restaurant launch, and the kind of kicker, and there's light spoilers here, so if you want to skip ahead a few 30 seconds or so, but light spoilers is that he ends up getting locked in the freezer for the whole opening. And the funny thing is that people kept mentioning fix the freezer, do the freezer over the whole season. And he keeps just not doing it or forgetting to do it, or it doesn't seem as important. But he ended up getting locked in the freezer and the door's stuck, so they can't really get him out. And he's freaking out. He's losing his shit. He's just, and basically it's funny because that whole season was a build up to him and the whole place working out, like all working out, but he made that one mistake. And so he is kicking the ever loving crap out of himself through that. And that part was a little relatable because you make one mistake and all of a sudden you're like, I'm a complete and utter failure. I'm scum. I should be erased from the earth. Like it's such a bad feeling. And
I
that's
should have
like,
been born as a sea cucumber.
yeah, I'm sorry for ever being born. Still one of my favorite quotes, especially like when Zoro said that and Sanji made fun of him about it later.
Yep.
Just love that. But like the irony of the thing is that everything ran perfectly smoothly.
Wow.
Like he, as the leader of that place, set them all up to succeed, and they did fantastically. The only thing that went wrong was him being stuck there. But the fact that they were able to do everything even without him, because they're like, oh crap, he's stuck. What do we do? Okay, we know our roles is this. That's the irony of the thing, because when he came out and all the season, he was being even more of a bit of an issue, where you're just like, dude, you don't understand. You did well. You were a good leader because even without you, everything worked out. Everyone knew exactly what to do. You set and the person who needed to be second in charge stepped up immediately. Like that was really interesting to me, especially the fact that he missed that. And this is what you're talking about, having that plan of succession, a legacy that even if you're not there, it still works out well. And people who learn from you are still able to keep doing what they're doing. And yeah.
No, that's exactly it. It made me think of, so there's the point after Oden's passing, but even before then, when he was still on the Oral Gold with Roger, with the Roger Pirates, Lady Toki went back to Wano. And everyone was speaking because everyone's, oh, wow. Oden's like, oh, wow, no one hates me, despite me being gone for, how many years was he gone?
Oh, my God. I don't know. Several, though, because his kids were like 8, I think, or no, Momonosuke was 7 or 8 or something like that. So it was like over 7 years.
Almost a decade. I think almost a decade he was gone. Yeah. And Oden, oh, no one's mad at me? No, everyone was cool. And then you had the 9 Scabbards talk about what Lady Toki was doing. And there's an additional point I'm going to say that, but I'm going to read what everyone was saying about her. Thank your wife, Lady Toki. She's a very wonderful person. When she recovered from her illness, she came down into town and helped the citizens every day. She has never acted arrogantly as a daimyo's wife, which would have been like a prominent leader, just to give people perspective. She labored with everybody cheerfully and shared stories of your adventure. Lady Toki and your children are extremely popular in Curry now. They had nothing but praise for you. At some point, everyone stopped speaking ill of your selfish behavior. Even in terms of leading, is having, especially from the male standpoint, is having the right wife with you, a woman of the people, right? As much as you need to be a man of the people, having the wrong person romantically, and we're going to expand on that again on Torochi, but having the right partner, the right wife, that's a big role, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the conversations I have with my young men is like really like screening. Because oftentimes, especially as you're younger, there's a term that Abba from Abba and Preach uses, young, dumb, and full of cum.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I keep it a stack here. And when you were young, you just see a pretty face and a curvaceous body. You're just blind. And I hear you. Like, I hear you guys. Curves matter. Curves, all curves matter. But hear me out. Is she a nice person? Hear me out. Does she support what you're trying to do? Hear me out. Is she with the plan and the vision you have in mind, right? Really think about those things as opposed to just what she looks like. What is she bringing to you, and how is she going to support you in what you're trying to do? Is she trying to help you achieve it? And also, on the other hand, for some of the young women I've worked with, although I remember one of them, she did, I'm being dead ass with you, Nedu. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. She dated a drug dealer, and she was like, yeah, but I thought he'd go back to school. And then she tried to use the example of Deb, but Deb helped you get hired. I'm like, I was already looking to get a higher paying job. And then Deb supported me with the interview process. She wasn't asked, he wasn't sending me places to apply to. I was already applying. And I feel like so on one hand, I feel like for young men, they don't screen properly. And for young women, they're screening for the wrong things a different way. Right. And it's just like, why would, first of all, he's a drug dealer. So first of all, you're dating someone, the antithesis of who I am. He's literally the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Let's go. He's the antithesis of me. But also in terms of, let's look at it from like a positive and negative reinforcement standpoint, right? Even one of them, she was with like and I'm going to be very clear and I use this term, a hobosexual. I'm not saying homo. No, hobo, as in he's not doing anything. He's a bum. And the only thing he's in a relationship you're using him for is for sexual purposes. He's not really doing anything. He's not contributing anything to the relationship and not just quote unquote providing and paying bills. No, he literally doesn't do anything. All he does is sit on the couch. So if you're with a guy like that, whether he's doing harm or nothing in the community, being with him is a positive reinforcement for that. You're already rewarding him with being with you, right? Like women don't just get with anybody. So if you're with him and he's not doing anything, why would he change?
Yeah,
right. It's similar to your girlfriend is abusive to some way, shape, or form, and then you propose to her. Why would she change? You're rewarding those actions, right?
Yeah.
If you like humans, like if you reward someone for whatever they're doing, whether good or bad, they're going to keep doing it. Why would they change after? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So why he's a drug dealer and you're with him. Yeah, he's going to keep doing it because you reward him for those actions. So he's going to keep doing those things. If you weren't, if he wanted to get with you and you told him, hey, you need to reform what we spoke about, refine yourself. Yeah. And he does it. That's a wholly different conversation. But like, he doesn't have to, and he doesn't want to. Yeah. You can't make someone do something they don't want to do. Like he's committed to that lifestyle.
I'm reminded slightly of even the situation this guy wanted to change a little bit, but we're talking about like the Morningside with the couple where he literally got caught in the act. Yes. And she didn't kick him out immediately, right? Like she allowed him to stay. And there are reasons people do those types of things, a lot of complicated reasons, but at the same time, it's just this person felt, okay, I got away with that. Like I oftentimes, like, again, it's not quite to the same degree that you do, because just the simple difference that I often more therapy focused here and there. But when sometimes I do talk to young women about like when they're talking about relationships, and I'm not like giving people relationship advice is not usually what I do specifically, but I'm like, all right, how do we bring that back to you? And we talk a lot about like values, right? It's like, what do you value in a relationship? What value? Like when was the last time you did that for yourself? And I see what we're doing here. And so I think that's one of those things too, is how do you see yourself? How do you value yourself? What are the things that you like, that you think this person's deserving this, but do you feel you are? And sometimes people end up being like, I don't deserve those things. So it's okay, interesting. Let's start there. And so that's really interesting. And then like to go back to Toki and Oden, I think it's one of those situations where two people, we could actually, he's pointed out Orihime as well, which I think is a perfect comparison. Also similar when it comes to Orihime and not Ichiko. Not Orihime. Otohime. 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 Sorry, my bad. Otohime and Neptune. So many names. Yeah, I know. Oh my god. But it's like people who are just a perfect match. People who have like very similar personalities, dispositions, and values. And because of that, it wasn't hard for Toki to go back. And also, it wasn't hard for Toki to go back and just, all right, keep doing the work that Oden was doing. But also, Oden probably didn't even feel like he had to worry about it because he knew her so well. He's just, I'm not worried about my kids or her because I know who she is. My kids are going to be great. And it sucks that I'm not seeing them right now. But by the time I get back, I know. He wasn't worried about the rest of Wano, although he was surprised how the fact that they didn't hate him. But again, he felt comfortable because we are such in sync people. We make so much sense together that, I know she's just going to keep on doing the good stuff. There's no question, because that's also just who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back into something that's like, you're like, oh, what have I heard? Oh, what was it? I'm trying to think of all the stories I've heard. Yeah. I can't believe she did this. I'm like, but she did this. But there we go. It'd be like, oh, and I'm not excusing any form of DV. Oh, she hit me. And I'm like, okay, but you saw her scrap that girl outside of a club. So why would you think you're an exception?
Yeah.
If this person has propensity to hit a stranger, why would they not potentially cause harm to someone that they love?
Yeah.
These are things you have to screen for. It's just, I remember this one woman I was interested in, and I heard her over say, I don't even like saying the word myself, but the B word, the
Mm-hmm.
beach word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's saying that about other women. And I was just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if you can say this about other people that look like you,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to me if we got into a fight in public? Because
Right.
that's how
Yeah.
you hear those stories. Like, you ain't shit, nigga. And then I'm why am I surprised? If you can talk about other people like that, then what are you going to say to someone that you're romantically involved with, right? Like having those things that you're actually looking at and screening through, as opposed to being like, oh my goodness.
The vast majority of like verbal and physical abuse is perpetuated by people who know each other closely and people who like know someone closely. It's much easier to do that when someone knows someone closely, right? So yeah, like it's interesting. And again, we don't think about it that way. That's why people tend to get surprised. But at the same time, like you're saying, like you saw that though. You saw that action.
They
You
just
saw
screamed at a cashier.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Someone who treats like a waiting staff at a restaurant poorly, that's okay. That's also a red flag. If they're going to do that, be that rude to someone, especially if there's no reason to, it's just like, that's okay. Those are signs.
And even Lady Toki, she's ready to defend herself. And now we're going to transition to like the juicier parts of this episode, if you will. And even when Oden was around, she protected Momonosuke from the assassination attempt.
Yeah.
It was Momonosuke, right? Yeah, it was Momonosuke because he would be the higher.
Yes.
Yeah, she protected him. He didn't even have to be there. Of course, he was upset, but on the other hand, and I'm not trying to excuse like her getting hurt, but like he knew that their children are safe in her hands, even if he's not around, and we saw it. And going on the assassination attempt, Orochi.
Oh boy.
ASAP Rally.
So you're much more familiar with this. I watched that video, but anyway. Oh boy, sucks.
Yeah, let's go. All right, so Orochi. Like I said, me and Nedu were talking about doing an episode on Orochi himself, but it wouldn't be a productive episode. We would just talk about how we don't like him, especially being Nigerian and Igbo. We have seen a lot of, and also me being half Trini too, seeing a lot of corruption in African and Caribbean countries. It just we're not gonna. Who's really shit? This guy. Yeah, let's talk about. Let's talk about how horrible he is. Yeah, remember when he lost one of his heads because the guy that he thought was using actually tried to execute him, and it's just nothing's going to come from it. But in terms of Orochi as a character himself, I think there's a really good conversation, which I'll open up to. So there's actually a quote. So I was looking at one of the characters in Guilty Gear, because like in Guilty Gear, the characters have like different writings on them. I forgot to add in the notes on your side.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And so there's a quote that says, "Curiosity killed a cat," right? Killed the cat. And so this character in Guilty Gear, his motif is a lion. What's written on him? He's actually one of the kings in Guilty Gear, next to one of my favorite character, Kai in Guilty Gear. So the character's name is Leo Whitefang. Oh, okay. And so he has on his swords. Oh yeah, you're a gamer, so you might know Leo.
I know the character.
Yeah,
he's very cool.
And so on his swords it says Noblesse Oblige. His twin swords it says Noblesse Oblige. And on his belt buckle, so different characters who are in the Crusades have words written on them. So for a soul, it's free, because one of the things he values most is to be free and to make his own choices. For Kai, hope. For Leo, it says pride. And there's another thing I recently saw that's written on Leo, which I really think is testimony to this conversation about Oden, Orochi, like I said, Asa Rocky, and what happened with him, ASAP Rally. It's ignorance will kill a lion. Let that one sink. I'll say it again. Ignorance will kill a lion. So with regards to, as much as Oden was able to put the right people in his circle, that assassination attempt was because of Kanjuro, someone who was in the inner circle. And throughout the whole time that Oden went from being a child to, being a daimyo, he was never aware of members of the Kurozumi tribe. Clan, I should say.
And I know this is something you talk about too, but I think you have this in your notes too, and it's just one thing I don't see enough of. And this isn't, make it clear, this isn't to excuse their behavior. It doesn't, and you even cover this in your notes too, right? But the Kurozumi clan was did horrible things. But their children were innocent.
To the father.
Exactly. And Kanjuro saw his parents slayed on stage, and that destroyed his mind. They have kind of
forgot about that piece. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's just, and it's my whole life is a play. Everything's just a play. Doesn't matter. I literally mean nothing. He just lost his mind, just broke at that point. And that's horrible. That shouldn't have happened. And even Orochi, his life of having to run away, having his whole family slaughtered and running away and hiding for all of his life, those are horrible things. Those should not have happened. Those are things that that people in, especially in Oden's clan, should have acknowledged and been like, no, this is bad. We need to actually support these kids. That's not what we tried to save the country for. So those things should not have happened. Having said that, and I think, and I'm going to more leave this to you because I know it's in your notes here, but Orochi shouldn't have done that. Doesn't excuse what he did.
No,
Orochi
absolutely not.
should not have done what he did at all, especially someone who Oden, a person who he have seen is very happy and willing to support people who have done bad things to have second
And acknowledge the
chances.
wrongs of the culture.
Exactly. He is the man to do that. And
Yep.
Orochi should have known that, but he was too consumed. And again, you understand it on some level when that happens to you, but it doesn't excuse anything that he did at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly it. I would say Wano, the people of Wano, Orochi and Oden, were a victim of circumstance of the culture of Wano.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I know, like, within, and this is also within our cultures too, as Africans, how you represent your tribe, or in this case your clan, it speaks to everybody, right? Like, you're not just, and there is value to that, right? Because it makes you act more accordingly, right? Because you're just like, if I go out as an Igbo man, I'm not just representing myself as a bear, I'm representing Nedu as well. So if they see another Igbo man, because they'll be like, oh, so you're from the same tribe as a bear, we're gonna preemptively fire you. And it's, we don't care.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith, I'm here to tell you, we don't care. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Get out.
Yeah.
There is value in that, but at the same time, there needs to be, once again, there's, like I said, just this absolute reverence for culture. Mm-hmm. I also appreciate Oden challenging in another aspect when it came to the Onigushima arc, where the samurai were willing to be like, I'm gonna die for my Bushido, for my family, and then what's his name, Jinbei and Usopp were just like, or not.
Yeah. How about you live? That'd be pretty cool.
Like, why are you just staying on this crashing island? Let's leave. We don't have to die. And it's like,
Usopp's little speech there, he's like, you guys are nuts, I'm tired of this. I can't remember all the wording for sure, but I'm gonna cling to life no matter how pathetic it looks. I'm gonna make sure to live, so I'm not gonna let you motherfuckers die.
Yep. Like, and then Jinbei said the same thing too. Jinbei in a different word, but he was just like, why are you guys dying? What honor is that? Why not live? And everyone's like, it's actually a great idea. Let's all live.
God,
Let's all make it home. And, and that was, I appreciate Oden even challenging, as a Japanese man, he was challenging Japanese culture and ways, because like I said, oftentimes we can be married to our culture, if you will. And like everyone was just like, they just saw everyone from the Kurozumi clan as bad, and that's to the point where Orochi was persecuted for them thing he didn't do. So he got to the point where I'm in a leadership position, and I don't care if I'm going to make you guys suffer, because you guys made me suffer. I'm not here to see any of you guys thrive and prosper.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a whole country. He's just like, I'm gonna see you all pay.
Yeah. You know what? Slave labor, cool with it.
Yeah.
Polluting the environment and the waters, down for the cause.
Yeah.
Getting paid by Kaido the colonialist?
Oh,
absolutely.
A collaborator, yeah.
Damn. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take Oden out? Love it. He didn't even do anything wrong to me, but guess what?
Yeah.
Fuck the Kozuki clan. Yeah. I'm here to see them burn.
Yeah.
And everyone who's associated to them. Everyone. Did they do anything wrong to me? No. Do I care? No.
Nope. It's like, this whole country is gonna burn and they're gonna suffer. 20 years. That's wild. That's so intense.
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to read, because I really want to embody like everything that Orochi said when Oden was just like, why are you doing this? And then Orochi ended up replying, listen, to me, every person in this country, Wano, is a sinner, guilty of persecuting the Kurozumi clan. I'd be content to see them all die. I became the shogun to destroy this country, not to lead, and maybe, no, I'm here to see you guys suffer. I'm here to see the world burn. In a different way from Doflamingo. Doflamingo just did random bad things. It didn't even make sense. I'm just gonna come here and make everybody suffer. No,
it's just so evil.
No reason. He had no reason. There was no rhyme or reason for what he was doing. Orochi, you could see the backstory. He was a deplorable person, but you could see, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Doflamingo's like, I'm gonna come back here because my family technically ruled here, and I'm gonna rule it, but I'm also gonna make people forget about their family members.
Yeah, kidding.
Why?
Guy's cracked.
just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Are you gonna use this country to make the smiley fact? No. Are you going to use this country to funnel the smiley factory in Pongkat? No. It's all separate. And even the smiley factory, I'm just doing it because it's going to hurt people.
Yeah, he literally just wanted to hurt people.
Yeah.
That guy was absolutely bonkers. Just because, for the sin of being lesser beings than him. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That's like all it is.
Are higher than him. I'm also going to make you guys suffer too because you guys think you're in charge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Being less than me, and also, yeah, the people who think they're in charge, screw them too. Let's just make everyone hurt.
I'm also going to help hide the colonialists. But I don't know. I don't really have a reason.
Yeah. But,
I'm just here for it.
Some people
addicted to drugs. Thumbs up.
He's just such a bad dude. It's so nuts.
Yeah, you saw how bad his backstory was, but he was like, I was always like this. I was always.
I was always a little devil, like literally, even as a child. It's just like these people are garbage, and then also it's like, hey, why are we eating like slaves? They're disgusting. We're not. Oh my god, kills his own. Just everything about Doflamingo. Just he had a bad heart, unlike his brother, who heart name literally means heart.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And so I'm here to. I became shogun to destroy this country. That will complete my vengeance. I'm not here to forgiveness. I'm not here to heal. I don't want therapy.
Yeah, I don't want therapy.
I don't want help. I don't want help.
He really did. And that's exactly it. He really didn't want help because, again, obviously Yasui took pity on him and stuff, and then so did Oden. But these are two men who are so honorable. So two of the most honorable people in higher positions in all of Wano. Anyone would have been happy to get support from these folks, but not Orochi, because Orochi's mind was, again, like we said, what happened was unjustifiable. But he had a chance at that point. Okay, but now you can heal because these are people that will actually care about you. They literally will care about.
They could have pardoned. I'm willing to bet Yasui, if not Oden, especially if he came shonen, he would have pardoned the Kurozumi clan.
No doubt about that, because hey, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Y'all do anything against these folks, you're going to jail. 100%. Like we've seen him have those types of actions, so yeah, I have no doubt he would have done that.
And he goes on to say, apparently, and this goes back into being married to your culture. Apparently, even a child can be a criminal. If they happen to be a Kurozumi from the Kurozumi clan, that's why everyone in Wano will suffer my wrath.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. And so, just going back on our conversation on the movie Morning Side, and we're going to touch on the ASAP mob situation in a second. One of the things I find for us as men. So one thing I would say when you're building a brand, when you're building like I don't have any other word than empire right now, but what you build. It takes a long time to build your brand, to build your reputation, to build who you are. And it just takes a moment. It just takes a mistake for it to all come down.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much. I would say a lot of us who look like us aren't aware of that, what legacy means, what building a brand, what building an empire, what building whatever you want to call it is. It doesn't take much. It just takes a few small mistakes. And going back on what happened in the movie Morningside, you saw how like his relationship, the guy, I don't know the name of the character, the light-skinned guy, you saw how his relationship fell apart just because he couldn't let go of his roadman friend.
Yeah.
If he cut him out, his life would have none of that would have happened. I'd be willing to bet.
Everything would have been completely different if he cut that guy out. Yeah.
But he still cut on. He said, "Oh, once I start thinking, we're cutting ties." It was already too late. You were saying in the movie in Morningside, like, aren't you tired of just having sex with women and selling drugs? And he's no, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Some people don't want more.
Yeah.
Some people don't. Some people don't. Just like Orochi. Some people don't want to do better. Whether it's a victim of circumstance like Orochi, or you're just that's just how you are. You don't really see anything more in life. And for us as men, and this is the same thing with what I speculate with what kind of happened with ASAP Relly, is that for us as men, we've been socialized to be aware of like the gold digger woman who got pregnant by you or got with you and then divorced you for half your money as soon as you made it. Or we know about those stories. We're very aware of those things. Some men fall into like his name, like what's his name, Travis Hunter, but that's a whole different conversation. But for the most part, we're aware of that. Or we're aware of when we come up, there's that guy who kind of sneaks in, the manager, the accountant. He's slowly extorting us for our resources. What we don't think about, and I've experienced this getting married, as men, we don't really think about if it's the homie we went to high school with, or the homie that used to come over to our mom's place when we were 5. Maybe it's him. And as you guys have been growing and rising and elevating yourselves, he's not happy with how much you've elevated. Even what's his name in Bleach? I know you haven't really watched Bleach yet, but Baz Hashwell, everyone keeps saying they have like, what a brotherhood relationship. I'm like, no, it's hella toxic. Not healthy at all.
Which characters? That's right. Because I know some.
The one with the fire fingers.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'm outside knowledge of Bleach, but I do know who that is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and him and Hashwell, the blonde guy, basically blonde Byakuya.
Yeah. He's the first. I was the same.
And Basby was with him until Hashwell started doing better.
Yeah.
And when he was elected to be like the second command of the Quincy's, that's when Basby wasn't happy. He legit was just like, it was always supposed to be me. There's some people who just have main character energy. You're supposed to be the deuteragonist at best, and you're only supposed to see me rise. And once you rise past it, I'm not going to be happy for you. There's some people that are like that, and we don't really screen for those people as men. That maybe that snake in the grass was with you since you were 5.
Yeah. And like the crappy thing is, and sometimes I talk to some of these young men about this too, when you see that happen to your friend and it's not you, like a feeling of jealousy and frustration and anger, totally normal human feelings. What isn't is the fact is when you hang on to that, be like, no, that shouldn't be me. That drives you to this space of I gotta get that guy, as opposed to like, how do I A, be happy with my friend and B, find my own path? Or do I want to keep supporting them here? Do I want to keep supporting them here and work under them? Or do I want to support them and then do my own thing? There are like, it's this idea, again, we end up being crabs in the bucket as opposed to helping each other, helping raise each other up and being happy for people. And then of course, we, the ones when we're in these positions, it's like you said, we just expect, yeah, this is my guy, this is my boy, we're fine. It's no question of whether you're fine or not, you just are. But like you said, that snake in the grass kind of was there the whole time. And how do you see that? How do you start realizing the signs?
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And I would actually, you made a really good point of saying like, why me is, I would, for those people that think like that, I would say, instead of why me, ask yourself, how did he do it?
Yeah, maybe even ask him too.
And and so that's what I was about to say. Have that humility to start asking questions. Because for me, when I see my friends doing really well in ways that maybe I want to, work on, if it matters to me, because some of my friends are doing great, I'm like, I don't really care for what you have. Like I said, like I have a friend who I have some people in my life who make like upwards of 6 figures. One of them is like a millionaire. I don't want millionaire problems. Millionaire people, like people who have money like that, they also have a different set of problems. I'm like, I don't want that. Getting lawsuits because your employee didn't do what they're supposed to. I don't want that. I don't want to go to court. Especially it would make me mad if I have to wake up and go to a place of something for something that someone didn't do properly, that I'm paying them to do it properly.
Yep. That would be like, come on, man. You should go.
I'm paying you not to do this thing, and you did the thing. Like these are the rules. Not to do, and you did one of the things. Now I have to go to court. What are we doing? Now I gotta pay the court and the lawyer for the thing that you did that I'm paying you not to do. Anyways. To ask those questions as opposed to being in terms of being like, why not me? Maybe there's a reason. Going back on the ASAP mob situation. So in terms of ASAP mob, to paint the picture, there's a group that ASAP Yamps put together, rest in peace, when they were in high school. So these are friends who've known each other since high school. And one of the things I was hearing ASAP really say is that ASAP Rocky stopped seeing him and seeing them as a group as much since he's gotten married. And he's married. With 2 kids. He's not going to be, it's not like relationships change over time. And now he's a father and he's a husband. He's not going to have the same availability for the ASAP mob as when he was younger. And on another standpoint, maybe there's something you were doing as to why you're not seeing him as often. We don't really ask those questions. Oh, he changed. Maybe it's the fact that either you didn't change or you changed as well. Right? And just really screening for those things. Like one of the things I'd praise Rocky for is like going with, I forgot who. I remember one of them is 12 when he went to go meet with ASAP Rocky, where he used that situation to try to charge him with a crime of a gun and battery crime. Is the fact that he went with 2 of the other ASAP mob members. I give him points for that. Right? Because We think about, being entering that room with that woman and she might say something about you because there's no windows and cameras. Yes, that is definitely a real thing. We've seen it with Kobe Bryant and other people like that. Johnny Depp, even to bring it home to anime. Now Fumi from Shield Hero, where we don't think about, maybe it was that friend from high school said something about you too, and that's it, right? It doesn't take that much for your reputation to be put at stake because he has nothing to lose. I never heard of ASAP Rocky until this trial. Who is he? I know 12 I know Rocky, I know Ferg, I know a good few of them. I've never heard of Relly. He has nothing to lose. You're the one who's Rocky. You're the one who's married to a billionaire wife and has 2 kids. You have far more to lose, right? To go meet with that friend, because meeting, it doesn't take much for that friend to put you at gunpoint, right? And we need to, as you even said too, Nedu, we need to have a better way of screening and watching out for those things that maybe that friend doesn't wish well for you.
Yeah. And that's like, again, like I said, even earlier in our conversation, right? Talking about that, some of those young folks to talk to about, like, how do you support, like, how you start to identify who the positive folks are in your circle, right? And try to figure out how to have that conversation, especially because early on, like, you can start to recognize signs. And then again, when you start to also know what is it that I value as far as friendships go, when those values aren't necessarily met in a relationship, then you get the choice of, do I need to have a conversation with this person, figure out what's going on, or is this person just isn't really it for me, so I got to step away. You can actually have those thoughts and those feelings and conversations when you're able to start to recognize those signs, or recognize why am I dissing myself, or why am I having a harder time with this person.
Yeah, and so that's exactly it. And I think one of those things that we have to start asking ourselves more questions about those friends. I've lost some relationships, high school relationships, going back on the whole Rocky situation, for people who didn't wish the best for me, right? And it was starting to, and I'd speculate maybe the same thing with Rocky. It started affecting my wife, right? The things that they were saying that they were doing. And as a husband now, right, I'm not single. We change with life. We change with circumstance, relationships, and whatnot. If this is harming my wife, what type of husband am I? If I made a vow to God to protect her, but I'm putting her in harm's way for the sake of these people who don't value her safety as much as I do. And am I valuing her safety if I'm putting her in harm's way? Am I really making that vow to God, man? I don't think I am if I'm moving like that. I'm prioritizing other people who clearly don't value me as much as opposed to how I was valuing them. And we have to start asking ourselves those questions of just, is this person, too often we feel like I don't know if it's I can't speak on the female standpoint, but for often us as men, we feel like we have to keep everybody that we came up with us as we keep going. And it's like some people fall off along the way. And I think that's a tough pill to swallow. That friend that you used to play like Ninja Turtles with on the SNES, on the Super Nintendo, they don't want the same things as you.
Yeah, no, I think we really do. And it's just also being able to be like, hey, that's okay. People change. It's not always a devastating thing. Sometimes it can feel that way, but also sometimes, hey, people change. Sometimes it's not even that deep. Sometimes it's just, y'all are different people. You're going for different things. That's okay. Other times it is definitely a case. Again, like, in two things. Like, I have a lot of pals that are married or they're in the stage with their kids. They're almost like, their kids are almost 10 at this age. But a number of friends like that. And I remember early on, like really early on, like, I was with some of these folks and they were just complaining about this couple. Oh, now that they're together, this. I'm just like, I had this moment, and it's not like I was like, oh, but defending them. Guys, he's married. Of course, it's going to be different. I was more like a realization, because we were all mad, and everyone was mad. And I remember not being as angry. And again, not because I was like all awakened or anything. It was more just, I think I just tend to be accepting of people's choices a lot. I was just like, and then I had this moment. And then again, some folks were annoyed with me. Other people were like, oh, yeah, that's right. Because we were pretty young. I was like early 20s, but they were just like, I'm like, they're married. They're trying to have a family. Of course it's going to be different. Yeah, that's not bad. It's just different. Because I think that was like, I had that realization then. And then I think for me as well, like, the other thing is, like, most of my friends are women, right? And even growing up, most of my friends were girls. And I was like pretty close with a lot of them. And then sometimes when they get partners, and yeah, and frankly, I'd say even for those of them who have women as partners, I just like, because I'm generally pretty touchy feely, I just like back off immediately quite a bit when they have a partner. And because it's just out of respect of the change in the relationship, right? It's just, okay, I'm probably not just going to run up and hug them when I see them immediately, especially if they're a partner. And it doesn't mean that I'm like completely cold or anything, but you just change the way you move because of the respect of the change of the relationship. it's interesting that a lot of times we just expect, and the royal we, not us specifically, but
Yeah,
oftentimes, especially as men, we're just like, things changed. Now I'm angry about it. But it's just okay. But maybe let's take a moment. First of all, acknowledge the anger. That's okay because it's normal to be upset with change. But let's maybe take a moment and be curious about what's changing here and why it's changing
that's
and
what
what this also means for us. What does this feel? Whenever we're angry about something, that's news for us. That's actually great information for us. What about that's getting under your gears? Is it because you hate that person that's getting because you were supposed to, or maybe you feel a little inadequate, or maybe you also want that type of success? So how do you start moving towards that direction, right? There's so much interesting and good information we can get when we start feeling some kind of way when we see someone succeed.
Ooh, man, Nedu, you guys just got a therapy session for free. That's crazy.
It's almost like I do
Anger
it
is
for a living.
news for yourself. That's how you said it. That's what you said, right? Anger is
Yeah, yeah. And when you're angry, that's information, that's news, that's good knowledge for yourself when you get really angry about something, especially when you see someone succeed and get angry. That's actually great information. Like you really need to explore what's happening there because that's super valuable.
yeah, no, that's exactly it. A lot of my when I got married, it was very divisive. It was a very divisive time. It was very
Mm.
stressful. I actually took a day off from all the
Oh.
stress. And with the stuff that we hear, you
Mhm.
and I are in a very similar field. So you and I hear some pretty dark stories,
Yeah.
right? And I know we talked about it before over the phones. You just learn to compartmentalize. Otherwise, you'll never play video games or watch anime. You just be like, well, wow, okay, that was traumatic. I'm definitely gonna just lie down and do nothing for the rest of the day, right? You gotta learn to just compartmentalize and also get a therapist. We both have therapists.
Mm.
And what was I gonna say? And to my friends as well, who have known since high school, like they both had, as much as like it was very divisive. Like some of them were just like, it's not like Ebere has been married before
Mm-hmm.
or has had a wedding before. So how is he supposed to know what to do? And to just have
Mm.
that compassion and empathy, like
Yeah.
how is he supposed to know these things, right? How are
Mm-hmm.
you supposed to have all the right answers? Is to have that compassion and understanding. But some
Yeah.
people don't have that. Like I said, like the guy was saying in terms of the ASAP mob situation, oh, what's his name? ASAP Rocky stopped visiting us. And just, yeah, he has a family. What
Yeah.
were you expecting him to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? He's not 15, he's not 16 anymore.
Yeah. He stopped seeing us. He's probably spending his time with his family, dude. That's normal.
It's normal. And so
Mm.
at the same time, that almost was his undoing. And it goes
Mm.
back, like I said, to the quote, ignorance can kill a lion. Oden, only upon coming back from his second go around on the Orogo with the Roger Pirates, that he realized that,
Mm.
excuse me, that Orochi is part of the Kurozumi clan.
Yeah.
So as much as he could have pardoned them, and Orochi's story is also very similar to what happened with Killmonger 2 and Black Panther. There's a quote
Yes.
called, if the child doesn't feel the warmth of the village hug, he will burn the village to feel the warmth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Orochi burned everything.
Oh boy, did he ever. God Lord.
In fact, Onigushima, actually, he set Onigushima on fire.
He did. He like literally burned the place down. Yeah,
Yeah.
he absolutely set it on fire.
Very figurative. I wouldn't be
Mhm.
if Oden did it on purpose, knowing him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the idea of just
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to the people around you
Yeah.
at all times. Not to say you shouldn't trust people, because he was able to trust Lady Toki and the other
Mhm.
scabbers, but because he also didn't realize who Kanjuro was too. So there's 2 Kurozumi members, and he only was aware of one the whole time.
Yeah. Like
Because
he absolutely should have known.
exactly, it's an uncomfortable thing to say, but you and I were talking about it, and when we were texting about it, and I put a lot of the response of what happened of Wano,
Mhm.
especially Oden's execution,
Mhm.
on Oden.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? Like I said, the saying is, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah.
You should have been able to do those things about those people around you, that not everyone is trying to see you prosper. You should have been aware of what's going on with the Kurozumi clan, right?
Mhm.
It's irresponsible to not have seen those things. Even for me, I put a lot of the responsibility of when I was falsely accused on me, because I, in a sense of going back on ignorance killed a lion, I didn't realize how much I built already, and how easily that could have crumbled.
Mhm.
Granted, a
Mhm.
lot of it was salvaged, but I'm sure some people already have some perspectives on me. Some of those people already had a negative view of me as well, so there's nothing. That's what it is.
Mhm.
But I should have been aware of, someone may not want to see me happy and prosper,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And it's okay to acknowledge those things, that some people are like that. Some
Mhm.
people are like, is this nigga happy?
Yeah.
Prospering? Is he thriving?
Not on my watch.
Not without me?
Yeah.
More than me?
Yeah.
Not on my
Yeah.
watch.
My like I probably should say too much about, but I know someone, and they were telling me that back in the day when they were coming up as a therapist, and they're a brilliant therapist. They're like actually like their skills are really next level.
Right.
They were telling me when they were doing a placement, this is part of the reason why they ended up doing their own thing, because anytime they worked in any space of authority, they actually started like surpassing their trainers, like their trainers, their preceptors, like anyone who was, and they were just like, I remember them telling me that they had just a situation, and there were two things. One, the fact that they go by they them was making their advisor really angry for no good reason. The other thing is that they
In
were
the field of
really
therapy,
getting
ironically enough. Sorry, go
was
on.
yeah, I know. Again, like the irony is there's a lot of folks in our field who also are not aware of their own selves, and they're dangerous, right? And so the fact that they them was like making their brain do backflips, but also the case that the fact that this person, they were incredibly good, and as someone that their instructor was struggling with, they figured out a lot of great things for this person. Like that person started moving forward. Their instructor lost their mind and basically started trying to ruin their career. And it's just, and I remember them just telling me, I was so shocked because I was like, shouldn't we just, like, why do you care about this? We should just be caring about the person. Like, how is someone that I'm supposed to be, like, who's supposed to be like the person I'm looking up to actually trying to destroy me? Right. And it's sometimes the people that should be helping lift you up end up being the ones taking you down or trying to take you down, right? And it's just that's so unsafe. And then in the end, even what you're saying about your own experiences, like these folks here, you're just like you hadn't even realized what you built. You hadn't realized the kind of the space that you've built for these young folks, and people probably felt threatened by that too.
Yep. No, exactly it. And what was I going to say? And when it comes to this level of ignorance and not being aware of what you have and what you've built, when it comes to ASAP Rocky situation, the people that are hurt most, secondarily would be like the ASAP mob in general, but the people who hurt most is Rihanna and their two children.
Right.
Those are the people who were impacted most by Rocky's, for lack of a better word, carelessness. In the case of in the case of myself, it was the youth I was working with, the youth in Dorset Park. Yes, it's impacted me, but I recovered. But they're the ones who lost me for what, 2 years? No, a year. Suddenly, right?
Yeah.
And in the case of Wano, in the case of Oden, the people who were hurt most was Momonosuke, Hiyori, Lady Toki, the Nine Scabbards, and Wano.
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah, like they literally, like his whole country, like everyone ended up because of that carelessness, that lack of understanding exactly
Lack of
who was in his
awareness.
yes, that lack of awareness of who was truly in his circle ended up making the whole country suffer.
Even for me, like going even to like my whole wedding situation, the person that was hurt most, Deb was crying, like bad. It's like, why is this happening? Why are they talking to you like this? Why are they treating you? Like it hurt her, and that's what really had to make me take a step back. Obviously, I spoke with my therapist at the time, but I shouldn't be putting Deb through those situations. Like, that's not fair to her, and I have to take responsibility for the pain that was causing her. And we have to be really aware of, like, when we're building something, we're doing something, like, it's not just for us. There's other people that are going to be impacted by our choices or lack thereof choices.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of things in terms of Wano, and specifically Oden. He's definitely my second favorite character in One Piece. I think it was like Luffy, but he like Gear 5 is really cool. Like Luffy through lightning, it's fucking crazy. And
Gear 5 was pretty wild.
Yeah, it was wild. Kamugabo no coming. I was like, wait, what?
Oh, that was so cool. Yeah. God damn.
But no, I just look. It was the end. That's what really won me over with Wano, with Oden, where he was saying, I know it's like how they talk about the masculine urge. It was, I've lived my life to the fullest. I would be happy for my tears to be shared over a glass of alcohol. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm working. That's what I think we should all work towards it, but that's what I'm working towards. Like, for my stories to be told. The same way as like my grandfather. Like, I know of his stories. I think we talked about in a previous episode, and I only just found out like his Igbo name.
Yeah, you were saying. Yeah.
It's that legacy. Like, that's what I'm working towards. Even if people don't know what I look like, but just to know what I did. And I love how Oden said that, where he's, you know what? I did something. I left an impact.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I really like that. One thing that just Odin's introduction I thought was super funny and super interesting, right? Where it's just like there's that funeral pyre, and then he just walks and just starts having Odin on the man's bones. Everyone's like, what is he doing? The disrespect, people crying and stuff.
Yep.
Which is, and he's just on his head. He's like, I know you loved Odin so much. You loved our meals. This is to honor you and stuff. It's just he knows this guy. He knows this guy would have been like, hell yeah, eat some Odin on my bones. That's fucking fantastic. Odin just so is unabashedly himself and lives life to those standards. So he's always very true to himself. Again, I always think about One Piece is a really big on perception, right? And people's stories. And of course, people are like, oh, Gold Roger was a bad dude, but Goldie Roger seems like a pretty upstanding guy. Luffy's a monster. Yeah, he seems okay. That's a big theme in these things. But it's like the people who truly matter are the ones that truly know. And the people who truly know are the ones that have been positively affected. So it's, even though people like Goldie Roger is a terrible person, all the people that he's helped still remember that to this day. Luffy, yep. Like, oh, he's a monster. All the islands that he's saved, they're just like, nah, dog, we fly his flag. We don't care what you think. And I think that's like the interesting thing about like legacy, where it comes down to the people who truly were touched and affected and supported by your actions. They're going to keep that part of that legacy is their own happiness and safety, and them being able to provide that happiness and safety for other people, and that going on. And that's not legacy. I don't know what is.
Bars. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's about legacy and people keeping that alive by impacting people. And like I said, it's the people who really don't want it, because Oden didn't want to be a daimyo, let alone show.
God, no, he really did not want that shit. I don't want that heat. I want to be able to do what I want. Again, he just looks annoyed. That's my memory of Oden. Oden, you're going to be a great leader.
He looks annoyed.
He looks annoyed. Some good stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode talking about leadership through Oden. Leaders are meant to be legends.
Well done.
Hell yeah. For those that watched that, I had to do the whole reenactment because that was a powerful scene at the end. I love that.
Oh, that was one of the most impactful deaths in One Piece.
Man,
that was nuts.
One of the most, for real.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode on Leaders Are Meant to Be Legends. We're out. Take care.
Have a great night.
Or day,
right? Whatever time of day.
Whatever when you're watching it. Probably is going to be at night, knowing people's Ned was right.
All good.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. To catch the latest news, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Black Nerd Talks. And if you enjoyed our latest episode, consider subscribing to the podcast. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.